In the swirling chaos of the galactic market, situated on the edge of the known universe, the air was thick with a cocktail of 1,000 alien scents and the hum of 1,000,000 alien tongues. Amidst this cacophony, the most intriguing event was about to unfold, the auction of rare species and items from across the galaxies. At the center of this spectacle stood Jax, a young human with tousled brown hair and eyes like the Earth's deep oceans, reflecting both fear and resilience. Captured during a raid on a remote colony, he had been thrust into slavery, a common fate for those unfortunate to fall into the clutches of interstellar raiders. The auctioneer, a bulbous creature with 4 eyes and a glistening, slimy skin, chanted in an incomprehensible galactic dialect, driving the excitement higher. "We have a rare specimen today, a human from the little blue planet, Earth." The crowd's interest peaked, as humans were known for their rarity and versatility. High above the crowded amphitheater, in a private viewing box draped with dark velvet, sat the figure of regal authority and mystique, Queen Nalara of the Zirathi. Her skin shimmered with a natural luminescence that reflected her royal status among her people. She observed the human on display with an intensity that belied a deeper interest than the casual cruelty of a collector. As the bidding war escalated below, Nalara's cold, calculating eyes never wavered from Jax. The bids grew astronomical, spurred on by the rarity of the commodity. Finally, with a flick of her slender, jeweled hand, she signaled her attendant to place the winning bid. A hush fell over the crowd as the auctioneer announced, "Sold to the Zirathi Queen." Jax, shackled and bewildered, was promptly escorted out of the arena and into the luxurious, yet intimidating, confines of Queen Nalara's spacecraft. As the sleek vessel departed from the market, leaving a trail of stardust in its wake, Jax's fate as the newest acquisition of the Zirathi Queen was sealed. Aboard the spacecraft, Queen Nalara awaited him in her opulent chamber, her presence commanding yet oddly inviting. "Welcome, Jax," she began, her voice melodious yet firm. "Your life as you knew it is over. Here, you will serve me, and in return, you will gain protection and privilege beyond your wildest dreams." Jax, still reeling from the shock of his rapid change in circumstances, could only nod in muted acceptance. He knew resistance was futile, especially when he caught the slight, enigmatic smile that played on Nalara's lips, a smile that hinted at not just ownership, but an intrigue that went beyond mere possession. As the stars outside blurred into streaks of light, Jax's new life among the stars was about to begin, under the watchful eyes of a queen with unknown desires. The universe, vast and mysterious, held many fates, but none perhaps as peculiar as that of a human slave bound to the will of an alien queen. Jax quickly learned that life aboard Queen Nalara's flagship was nothing short of a ceaseless ballet of alien protocol and splendor. The vessel itself was a behemoth of technology, its hallways lined with artifacts from conquered worlds and ceilings that mimicked the sky of Zirathis, the Queen's home planet, complete with swirling purple clouds and occasional flashes of distant lightning. Nalara had Jax attend to her personal needs, which ranged from managing her extensive library of intergalactic literature to accompanying her on diplomatic missions as part of her retinue. It became clear that Nalara's interest in him was not merely as a servant. She seemed to relish explaining the intricacies of her empire's politics and the strengths of its enemies. "Knowledge," she often said, "is more deadly than any weapon in the universe." One evening, as the twin suns of an alien world set outside the viewport, casting long shadows into the royal chamber, Nalara summoned Jax. She wore a gown that shimmered with the light of real stars, a fabric spun from the web of a cosmic spider, rare and priceless. "Come, Jax. Sit with me," she beckoned, her voice softer than usual. They sat overlooking the vastness of space, a tableau of cosmic wonder unfolding before them. Nalara poured an effervescent liquid that glowed faintly blue into 2 crystalline glasses. "This is from the nebula vineyards of Soratai. It's said to enhance one's perception," she explained, offering him a glass. As they sipped the starlit drink, Nalara spoke of her plans to expand her dominion, her eyes alight with the fires of ambition. Jax listened, captivated not just by her vision, but by the subtle grace of her movements, the assuredness of her speech. It was in these moments that he saw her not just as a queen, but as a visionary, perhaps even a poet of cosmic scale. Jax. She paused, her gaze fixing on him with an intensity that made the air around them seem to charge with electricity. I need someone like you by my side. Not just as a servant, but as someone I can trust, someone who understands the nuances of power. The proposal hung in the space between them, heavy with implications. Jax felt the weight of her words, understanding that this was no mere elevation in status. It was a test, a gateway to a life of not just servitude but significance. Will you stand with me, Jax? She asked, her hand extending towards him, not as a command but as an invitation. Jax took her hand, the decision igniting a new spark within him. Here, in the cold vastness of space, under the watchful eyes of a queen who defied the universe, he found a new purpose. Together, they would weave the fabric of a new destiny, one that might just redefine the balance of power in the galaxy. As Jax's role within Nalara's court deepened, so too did his understanding of the delicate tapestry of alliances and enmities that defined the Zirathi reign. He learned to navigate the court's undercurrents, a place where words were wielded like daggers and smiles often hid daggers even sharper. Nalara's trust in him grew, and she began to involve him in more sensitive matters, including the espionage networks that spanned the galaxy. Their days were often spent in the strategy room, a spherical chamber with holographic maps floating in the air, displaying star systems and fleet positions. Nalara would stand at the center, her finger tracing paths of invasion and defense, her mind always several moves ahead. You see, Jax, she would say, every star a potential battleground, every planet a piece of the puzzle. One particular mission required more direct involvement. Nalara had received intelligence about a rebellion brewing on a fringe planet in her empire. The rebels were reportedly harnessing a form of energy that could potentially threaten her rule. We must quell this rebellion before it becomes a beacon for others to follow, she declared, her eyes fixed on the swirling image of the rebellious world. Together, they embarked on the covert operation, cloaked under the guise of a diplomatic visit. The planet was rugged, with vast deserts and jagged mountains, its beauty a stark contrast to the brewing conflict. Jax was tasked with infiltrating the rebel ranks, using his human identity to gather intelligence. Disguised as a mercenary, Jax delved into the heart of the rebellion. He encountered a myriad of species, each with their own grievances against the Zirathi rule. Nights were spent around flickering campfires, listening to tales of lost homes and dreams crushed under the weight of an empire. The rebels spoke of a device that could harness the core energies of their planet, a weapon of last resort. Jax's reports were a mixture of technical details and personal reflections, each transmission sent through encrypted channels back to Nalara. She read each one, not just as a queen but as a strategist considering the next move in a high-stakes game. The turning point came when Jax discovered the location of the energy device. It was hidden deep within an ancient fortress, guarded by the most loyal of the rebel forces. Using a combination of stealth and guile, he managed to secure detailed schematics of the device and its operational protocols. Armed with this knowledge, Nalara launched a precision strike, not to destroy the device but to take control of it. The operation was swift, a testament to the efficiency of her military forces and the accuracy of Jax's intelligence. As the dust settled, Jax stood by Nalara's side, watching as the former rebels were brought before her. Instead of wrath, she offered them a place within her empire, under conditions that would ensure their planet's energy would benefit all under her rule. This act of unexpected mercy reshaped Jax's understanding of her. Nalara was not merely a conqueror but a ruler capable of weaving new threads into her empire's fabric. His respect for her deepened, the bonds of loyalty fortified by the fires of conflict and the shared victories that followed. The rebellion's remnants dissipated like smoke, but the ripples of Nalara's calculated mercy lingered. Word spread across her empire, a whispered tale of a queen both ruthless and just. Jax, now an indispensable figure in her inner circle, found himself thrust into new layers of her governance, layers darker than he had anticipated. Nalara's advisors grew wary of the human. Some saw him as a distraction, others as a threat. One, a sharp-featured Zirathi named Vrelin, made no effort to hide his disdain. A human, he spat one evening during a council meeting. Fragile, short-lived. And yet you entrust him with matters of empire? Nalara silenced Vrelin with a glance that could have frozen a star. Jax has proven himself more valuable than most who were born into their privilege. Still, Jax could feel the growing tension. He avoided direct confrontations with the council, instead diving deeper into his tasks. Nalara had tasked him with overseeing the construction of a new facility on an uncharted moon. It was no ordinary structure. Its purpose was shrouded in secrecy, known only to the Queen and a select few. The moon was desolate, its surface an expanse of jagged obsidian-like rock under a perpetual twilight. The facility's design was a marvel of Zirathi engineering, an interlocking lattice of energy conduits and gravitational stabilizers. Jax coordinated the effort, ensuring the imported workforce of multiple species operated in harmony, even as he tried to decipher the true purpose of their creation. One evening, as he inspected the conduits deep within the facility's core, he stumbled upon something extraordinary, a chamber lined with conduits pulsing with an iridescent light. In its center stood a crystalline obelisk, humming faintly with power. The energy it emitted was unlike anything Jax had encountered before, alive, almost sentient. He reported the discovery to Nalara, who arrived within hours, her personal guard in tow. Her expression was one of satisfaction, as though a critical piece of her plan had fallen into place. This, she said, gesturing to the obelisk, is the key to Zirathi ascension. Jax pressed for details, but Nalara only offered cryptic explanations. Some truths must be earned, Jax. When the time is right, you will understand. Unbeknownst to him, Vrelin had been observing Jax's movements. The advisor's suspicion turned to action, and he began to sabotage the facility subtly, planting seeds of discord among the workforce. Tensions rose, minor skirmishes breaking out between species. The once efficient operation slowed to a crawl. Jax worked tirelessly to restore order, his efforts undermined at every turn. Nalara, aware of Vrelin's machinations, summoned the advisor to a private audience. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Nalara's words cut deeper than any blade. You have not just defied me, Vrelin. You have jeopardized the future of our empire. By the time Jax returned to the royal chambers to report the stabilization of the workforce, Vrelin was gone. His name was never spoken again. With the sabotage uncovered and eliminated, the facility's completion accelerated. Nalara's satisfaction was evident, though she remained tight-lipped about its ultimate purpose. Jax, despite his growing curiosity, learned to trust her vision, even as the obelisk's hum seemed to echo in his dreams. The moon's twilight skies bore witness to the activation of the facility. As the conduits flared to life and the obelisk began to spin, radiating its sentient energy outward, Jax felt a shiver that wasn't entirely fear. Something monumental was unfolding, something that could reshape not just the Zirathi Empire but the very fabric of the galaxy itself. The obelisk's activation unleashed a pulse that rippled through space, invisible to the eye but tangible in its effects. Across the facility, systems calibrated themselves without input, aligning to the obelisk's rhythm. Nalara stood at the observation deck, her expression unreadable as the energy fields outside danced like northern lights across the alien horizon. Jax couldn't shake the feeling that they had awakened something ancient. The obelisk wasn't just a tool. It felt like a being, its hum resonating deeper each day. Engineers reported anomalies, tools levitating briefly, machinery self-repairing, data streams rewriting themselves in unknown languages. The facility itself seemed alive, and Jax's unease grew. Nalara called for a council of her most trusted minds, including Jax. In the war room, the holographic table displayed a galaxy-wide map overlaid with energy signatures. The obelisk's pulse had echoed farther than anticipated, intersecting with known Zirathi trade routes and military outposts. More troubling, it had attracted attention. A hostile fleet had emerged from the void, its vessels massive and spiked like predatory insects. Their origin was unknown, but their trajectory was clear. They were coming for the moon. Nalara issued commands with precision, dispatching her fleets to intercept. The warship formations she orchestrated were a masterpiece of strategy, but Jax noticed her hesitation as she stared at the hologram. The invaders had numbers and firepower that dwarfed the Zirathi forces. Jax stepped forward. We need an edge. The obelisk, can it be weaponized? The room fell silent. Nalara's gaze met his, the faintest flicker of conflict in her eyes. To weaponize it would be to gamble with forces we do not fully comprehend. It may be the only chance we have, Jax pressed. They're not coming to negotiate. They're coming to destroy. Nalara nodded slowly. Very well. But if we do this, you will oversee the process. Jax descended into the obelisk chamber, now teeming with activity. Scientists and engineers worked feverishly, rerouting conduits and amplifying the obelisk's output. Its hum grew louder, almost melodic, as if it understood its purpose. Jax directed the effort, his every decision a gamble between survival and annihilation. The hostile fleet arrived sooner than expected, darkening the skies above the moon. Zirathi warships engaged them, the battle a symphony of light and destruction. From the observation deck, Jax and Nalara watched the chaos unfold, the obelisk's power still untested. Now, Nalara commanded. Jax triggered the activation sequence. The obelisk's hum crescendoed into a deafening roar as its energy surged through the conduits. A beam of pure light erupted from the facility, piercing the sky and enveloping the enemy fleet. Ships disintegrated instantly, their forms dissolving into the void. The remaining vessels retreated, scattering like frightened insects. As silence fell over the battlefield, cheers erupted from the Zirathi forces. The obelisk's power had turned the tide, its might undeniable. But Jax couldn't celebrate. In the chamber below, the obelisk pulsed erratically, its light dimming and brightening in uneven intervals. Nalara joined him in the chamber, her expression a mixture of triumph and concern. We have won the day, but at what cost? Jax stared at the obelisk, its hum now distorted, almost anguished. It's not just a weapon. It's something more. And I think it's starting to wake up. The obelisk's light shifted from its familiar iridescent glow to a deep, pulsating crimson. The energy it emitted grew erratic, sparking arcs that lashed out against the chamber walls. Nalara's guards instinctively drew their weapons, but she raised a hand to halt them. Stand down. Weapons will only escalate it. Jax stepped closer, feeling the pull of the obelisk like gravity itself, tugging at his chest. It wasn't just energy, it was communicating. Words formed in his mind, fragmented and incomprehensible, but unmistakably alien. He stumbled back, clutching his temples. What is it saying? Nalara's voice cut through the haze, her tone sharp but not unkind. I don't know, Jax gasped. It's not words. It's feelings. Fear, anger, desperation. The obelisk's glow intensified, and suddenly the entire facility trembled. Systems overloaded, sparks flying as terminals shut down one by one. Engineers scrambled to regain control, shouting commands into comms that offered only static. A deep, resonant sound filled the air, not unlike a heartbeat, shaking them to their cores. Nalara turned to her chief scientist, a stern Zirathi named Otran. Explain. Now, Otran's voice was strained. The obelisk? It's alive, Your Majesty. And whatever we did to weaponize it, we've broken its equilibrium. It's destabilizing. Jax's mind raced. If it's alive, then it might be trying to protect itself, or retaliate. The tremors intensified, and suddenly the obelisk emitted a blinding flash. When the light faded, they weren't alone. Hovering in the air above the obelisk was a translucent, shimmering figure, its form constantly shifting, as if made of liquid light. It spoke, its voice layered with echoes in an unearthly tone. You have awakened me. You have bound me. Now you shall hear my truth. The chamber fell silent, the weight of the entity's presence suffocating. Nalara, ever the sovereign, stepped forward. Speak your truth then. Explain why you have been silent for millennia, hiding beneath our feet. The entity's form twisted, becoming sharper. Silent? Bound. Your kind tore me from the weave of existence, imprisoning me within this vessel. For power. For war. Jax exchanged a glance with Nalara. The obelisk wasn't a creation of the Zirathi, it was something far older, something stolen. And now? Nalara's voice remained steady, though her fingers twitched at her side. What will you do? The entity regarded her, its form rippling. Your tampering has fractured my bindings. I am no longer constrained. But I am not whole. The fragments of my being were scattered across the stars by your ancestors. If I am to survive, I must reclaim them. Jax stepped forward, his voice bold despite the fear coursing through him. And if we help you? What happens to us? The entity tilted its head, as if considering. Aid me, and I will restore balance. Oppose me, and I will unmake all that you hold dear. Nalara's gaze shifted to Jax. This is no longer a question of power, but survival. Do we trust it? Before Jax could respond, the entity spoke again. Decide quickly. For even now, my presence draws those who would see me destroyed. They come for you. For me. For this world. As if to emphasize its warning, alarms blared throughout the facility. A new fleet had arrived in orbit, larger and more formidable than the one they had repelled. The entity turned, its translucent form flickering with urgency. Time dwindles. Choose, mortal queen. Nalara's jaw tightened. We will help you. But know this, should you turn on us, I will do whatever it takes to destroy you. The entity's light softened, a gesture that might have been gratitude or merely acknowledgement. So be it. Jax's stomach churned as the obelisk pulsed once more, and a wave of energy spread outwards. Across the galaxy, ancient relics long thought dormant began to stir, and the galaxy's balance teetered on the brink of chaos. The obelisk's energy rippled outward, a beacon calling to the scattered remnants of the entity's fractured being. Across the galaxy, ancient ruins and forgotten artifacts responded, awakening with seismic force. On distant planets, lights flared in skies that had been dark for millennia, and civilizations whispered in fear of omens foretold. Within the facility, the tension reached a breaking point. The hostile fleet in orbit began their assault, raining fire down on the moon. Nalara's forces scrambled to defend, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Explosions rocked the facility, and Jax braced himself against the wall as debris rained from above. The entity's form grew brighter, its voice resonating with power. You have awakened my fragments. They approach, but the enemy seeks to destroy them before they can rejoin me. If they succeed, I will perish, and so will all who stand in their path. Nalara's eyes burned with resolve. Then we fight. She turned to Jax. Coordinate with the fleet. We need to hold off their forces until the fragments arrive. Whatever happens, this moon must survive. Jax nodded, sprinting toward the command deck. Alarms blared as the facility's shields strained under the bombardment. From the viewport, he saw the enemy fleet, a massive array of ships that dwarfed even Nalara's largest warships. It wasn't just an invasion, it was annihilation. On the surface, the Zirathi ground forces engaged enemy drop ships, their plasma weapons lighting up the jagged terrain. Jax patched into the fleet's communications, relaying orders to hold the line. Every second they bought was another second for the fragments to arrive. The obelisk's chamber pulsed with chaotic energy as the fragments drew closer. Nalara stood beside the entity, her regal presence unshaken. What happens when they rejoin you? She demanded. I will become whole, the entity replied. And with wholeness comes power enough to repel these invaders, and more. Nalara's voice hardened. Power that could also destroy us? The entity's light dimmed slightly, its tone almost contemplative. Your fate depends on your actions. Aid me, and I will remember your mercy. Suddenly, the chamber shook violently. The enemy had penetrated the outer defenses, their strike teams breaching the facility. Jax's voice came through Nalara's calm there inside. I'm redirecting forces, but we're stretched thin. Nalara drew her weapon, a sleek blade that shimmered with energy. Then we hold them here. The first wave of invaders stormed the chamber, their armored forms unlike anything seen before, mechanized constructs with glowing cores that radiated pure malice. Nalara fought with the precision of a warrior born, each strike a testament to her skill. Jax arrived moments later, leading a small contingent of guards to reinforce her position. The battle was brutal. The constructs were relentless, their weapons tearing through shields and armor with ease. But for every soldier that fell, another stepped up, driven by loyalty to their queen. Jax fought alongside them, his instincts honed by desperation. As the fight raged, a brilliant light erupted outside the facility. The fragments had arrived, streaking across the sky like meteors. They descended toward the obelisk, their energy resonating with its hum. The invaders shifted their focus, directing their fire at the fragments in a last-ditch effort to stop the reunion. "Protect the fragments," Nalara shouted, her voice carrying above the chaos. Jax and the remaining forces pushed forward, creating a path for the fragments to reach the obelisk. One by one, they fused with the entity, each reunion shaking the ground beneath them. The entity's form grew brighter, its power overwhelming, until finally, the last fragment joined it. The light was blinding. The invaders froze mid-assault, their constructs disintegrating as the entity unleashed a wave of energy that consumed them entirely. The hostile fleet in orbit suffered the same fate, their ships collapsing in on themselves before vanishing into the void. When the light subsided, the facility was eerily silent. The entity floated above the obelisk, its form now stable, its power contained. Nalara approached it, her weapon lowered but her gaze unwavering. "You are whole now. What will you do?" The entity regarded her, its light pulsing softly. "I will leave. My time in this realm has ended. But know this, you have proven yourselves worthy of survival. I leave behind my knowledge and a warning. Use it wisely, for greater threats lie beyond the stars." With that, the entity ascended, its light piercing the heavens before vanishing into the cosmos. The obelisk dimmed, its power spent, now nothing more than a silent monument to what had transpired. Jax slumped against a wall, exhausted but alive. Nalara stood over him, her expression softened. "You've proven yourself again," she said, offering her hand. He took it, pulling himself to his feet. "What now?" "Now," she said, gazing at the ruined chamber and the stars beyond, "we rebuild. And we prepare. The galaxy just learned what it means to challenge us." As they stepped outside, the survivors gathered, their faces a mix of relief and determination. Under Nalara's command, the Zirathi had faced annihilation and emerged stronger. Jax knew their fight was far from over, but for now, they had earned a moment of peace beneath the endless expanse of stars.